Okay, it's been a while since we've gone live. Brad's been super busy. I've just had some stuff going on as well, professionally and personally, and all that good stuff. But not to fear, we are back, talking about all this good stuff. Um, yeah, glad to be back and just kind of taking some time to kind of prepare for, I guess, a better show and all that good stuff. How you been, man?
Doing pretty good. That was yeah. We were both kind of busy there with a multitude of things. Mine was work related and trying to you've experienced this recently, trying to get things done so you can actually go out of town.
Yeah,
And how stuff doesn't stop piling up just because you have plans to go out of town. So that was
sure.
kind of that was something I was dealing with. And I had in that same time frame, I've had two listings go live. Uh, one of them we'll talk a little bit more about today, but it's kind of a unique property. The other one is we're kind of the other thing we'll talk about is there's some seasonality going on, and I'll explain what that is too. So that's a little hook for you guys to stick around and see what we have in store for you today.
Cool, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm teaching a first time homebuyer class this weekend. I told you that backstage. And the feedback I'm getting from a lot of people that I talk to is like, oh my gosh, the rates are sky high. I can't afford this house. And, with perception, right? And it's kind of the same thing with like when rates were low. So, um, I don't know, it's one of those things where you have to tell people like, well, you may not think you qualify for something, or you may think that you can't get this house, or whatever. But if you're really curious, and especially in a time like this, whether you're single, have a family, whatever, I think it's always a good idea to just at least have that in the back of your mind and never think if it's an impossible thing. Um, obviously, like, I mean, we are obviously doing a social media type podcast, right? But I think a lot of times when you see like the headlines, your mind just gravitates to that. And I just tell people like, well, you don't. Why do you think that? Why do you think you can only afford a $500,000 house when you can actually afford a $750,000 house? Or do you even know what an interest rate like payment looks like? And you can't. Everyone's different. There's different loan programs. It's not cookie cutter. That's where someone like me, mortgage professional, comes into contact with, to help you with the financing part. Real estate professional like you're trying to also fit that puzzle piece into into that round hole, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's just kind of a funny thing lately.
Yeah, just
Other than other fun.
instead of relying on my sister-in-law's uncle told me that this or that or whatever, just
Hmm.
yes, sir, I did, Michael Baker. We closed about two weeks ago. No, it was last week, last Thursday.
Last week.
Um, and yeah, it was great, man. It was great. I mean, and they weren't worried about interest rate
Hmm.
or anything coming from New York. Um, when your property taxes are north of $10,000 and you move somewhere and it's $2,500 a year,
Hmm.
it's like none of this news matters. So that's a perfect example of everybody's situation being different. And just check and see, if you call Ferd and he tells you like, hey, your monthly payment will be this, what would it take? Okay, from that number, what would it take to get you in the house? Like, are we 500, are we $300 off? Are we $500 off? I was one of my listings that it's a really nice two-story house, about 1,700 square feet. It's got a single car garage and it's on 1.11 acres
Hmm.
and for 250,000, and got a nice deck on the backyard and in the backyard. And we are actually promoting because they're ready, they're motivated to sell because they have a contract on the house that they want. We've actually wrote in the description on MLS, buy your rate down. $5,000 in seller concessions, closing costs with acceptable offer. So you start putting those incentives out there. A lot of buyers, we were just talking backstage, a lot of buyers don't realize that you can ask, they've been told so much that it's a seller's market. They don't realize, okay, well, now it's kind of, there's some, we're in the fall, it's not as busy, there's not enough competition. So if a buyer needs some incentive, there's not a ton of people, there's not as many people looking now. Everybody wants to wait to spring, which is when everybody wants to buy.
Uh-huh.
So talk to Ferd and let him crunch numbers for you, and then make a decision. Just don't go by what your sister-in-law's stepdad said, or whatever. Don't go by that. Just see for yourself and get the information for yourself.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I know, Brad, you primarily do real estate in the South Carolina area. I can lend on the West Coast. I go as far as Colorado, and as far north as Alaska, and as far as west as Hawaii. So, we can help you out in those areas. And even if you don't, if you don't live in those areas or are looking to buy, I mean, I think we said this before, like, reach out to us. Like, we'll try our best to at least like steer you in the right direction, or just kind of give you a reality check that maybe a local lender won't be able to. Or, if we know someone in that area, we can help you as well. I think in our industry, it's so old school, right? But the basics of our industry is like still word of mouth, kind of connecting with someone, like, cause it's, it's a trust thing, right? It's a sensitive subject with some people. I know like for like some family members, they just don't want, other people to know how much money they make, or like how much, whatever. Others are like, help me out because I only want to trust you with my money. So I totally understand that and respect it as well. But I also always want to help, people that are close to me. I prefer that, it feels better that way anyway. So
Than just a cold, it's not a cold body, just a lead that you pick up along the way. It does feel better to help people, like,
yeah.
Helping Brian and Mrs. LCS relocate here from New York. So yeah, that's awesome. It feels great. So one thing on this listing that I was looking at, and the reason we decided to go, and I mentioned this because I want to get your opinion on it. Instead of lowering the price $5,000, we decided to offer the closing cost, because lowering it $5,000 might have saved them the prospective buyer or the future owner of that house about $10 a month. Whereas if you could apply it to buy down the rate, or say, something like that, it might save them around $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the types of things you can do. What are your thoughts on that? Or have you run into those opportunities or anything yet?
I mean, yeah, I've run into those opportunities on the other side where I'm competing with someone, but like if I was a consumer or a buyer, the biggest thing I think I run into with people is like, oh, I don't have enough money, or, oh my God, I'm about to write like the biggest check of my life and I'm going to be wiped out for the foreseeable future. Well, one thing I always tell people is like, well, you don't have to make your first payment until a month later. So that's nice. So it kind of gives you a month to kind of recoup. But still, I mean, a month's not like it's not like a really big difference, depending on your mortgage payment. But no, I mean, I would 100%, at least, especially in these rates, like I would never, I don't think I would try and buy down your rate at this point. I'd try and go in with as little cash or cost as possible. When I say cost, I mean like out the gate, because the thing we're trying to tell people is like refinance later down the road, kind of hoping that occurs. And with the way the bond market is right now, I mean, I think that's inevitable in the next 2 to 3 years, if not sooner. But yeah, so that's just kind of where I think
you'd rather apply it to the closing costs and have less out of pocket for the have less out of pocket for the buyer, as opposed to buying the rate down, which you might end up refinancing anyway.
Yeah, and
so you kind of lose that money a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just right now, it's just to like, I think right now people are wanting that immediate kind of like want to say satisfaction, but like they want to see the rewards immediately, and they'll just kind of not really worry about that until later down the road. They want to get in the house because you still have a supply problem, like you've been saying for a long time. So to the full, yeah, it's something going on over there. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so let's get into the show. We got some slides, but no, but I mean to kind of harp on your not harp to kind of piggyback on what you just said. Yeah, I would say 100%. Like, obviously you want to gauge people, right? But like the cost to buy that rate down is, I mean, like it's like cool. You get like $5,000 less or whatever, but like, shoot. Give me a second, Brad. I'm gonna have
Sure,
to
that's
go
fine.
off.
That's
Okay.
cool. I can talk for a minute.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the good thing about offering when you offer the closing cost. So if you offer just like a flat $5,000 in closing costs, they can choose to apply it wherever they want to. So that's kind of nice to be able to do that. And so they're not locked into doing doing the buy down or doing they're not locked into doing one or the other. They can do any, whatever their situation, whatever's best for their situation. Some buyers can afford we had some folks look at the house. They were approved for much higher. They were approved for like 350, and this is listed at 250, and they wanted a house with some land. They were so they could afford more house. They didn't have that cash on hand. So offering that as an incentive is helpful to kind of get that, get that that out of pocket, exactly like Ferd's saying, get that out of pocket, those closing costs down. And because a lot of times the lender may have some fees. Of course, the attorney is going to have some fees associated with with processing everything. And in South Carolina, so it's typical for us to have one attorney just handle the entire transaction as opposed to have each side having their own attorney. I know in New York, it's an attorney state. So each side has an attorney, and they kind of negotiate that stuff. But it also takes, in New York, I think it was like 60 days to close, whereas here I can typically do a deal in 30 days. So that's it's different in every state, but like Ferd said, we if I can answer questions for anyone, I'm glad to do that. If you just want to test the waters without really connecting with someone, I'm happy to help however I can. And I know he feels the same way. I'm happy to help wherever I can. Just understand that the laws are different in each state. So I could maybe generally give some guidance, but specifically not being licensed in that state would, I wouldn't want to answer specific questions. But the good thing about, I work at Keller Williams. The good thing about Keller Williams Realty is we are the largest referral network in the world. So regardless of where you're moving, there's an agent there, so, and I trust, I really trust our, I guess, not that others aren't ethical, but I just trust the, I guess our mantra or just our belief system. I trust how we do business. And I've run into, most of the agents that work at Keller Williams that I run into, I really enjoy working with. And it's always a pleasant experience because at the end of the day, both sides want to get to the finish line. The seller wants to sell, the buyer wants to buy. So let's just get to the closing table. Let's do what we've got to do to get there. So it's a lot easier. So if you get to the point, if you want to ask me some questions and I can help you out there, happy to do that. But when you get to the point where, hey, Brad, I think I think we want to try this, or I think we want to pull the trigger, I can, I've done that for people before in other parts of the the country. Helped a guy, he was in the military, helped a guy sell a house here in Columbia. I've done it several times for military folks, actually. Help them sell a house here and then connect them with their agent in the place they were going. So I call and interview the agent, talk to them, get a good feel, because I want some, since I can't be the guy, I want somebody who's as much like me as I can get. So yeah, that would be ideal, is just to call, interview someone, then connect them to you and say, hey, I talked to this, and I've had agents call me. I've gotten referrals from other agents in other parts of the country, and they call me and talk to me. I'm like, yeah, I think you're aligned with what I believe and how I operate and how I do business, and that's really important, that those things align. So yeah, but hopefully I don't have control of the slides, or else I would go ahead and do my my portion, and then we could double back to Ferd's part. But we'll you guys have any questions? Michael Baker, I appreciate you, man. You are here week in and week out. I mean, you are a warrior. And it's not just it's not just our show. I see you in all the chats doing representing and being supportive, and we certainly appreciate it. Yeah, I think I don't know if Ferd's doing like March of Dimes or something. Maybe he's doing like a telethon, March of Dimes telethon or something. But he was certainly blowing up. The bat phone rang and then his cell phone rang. So, yeah. But if you guys have any questions or anything, we encourage you to ask them in the chat. If you watch on the replay, we seem to have a fair amount of people watching on the replay, the rewind, as we say. We seem to have a fair amount of people doing that. So leave a comment if you have a question. We can always double back and ask the questions if if we have the opportunity. We'll go back and double check and ask answer those questions if we can. So, but we love having people live and love having folks chime in and ask questions while we're doing the show. All right, is everything okay?
Yeah, I didn't get the answer I needed, but that's okay. It is a work thing. So no, it's all good. It's all good. I'll have to just go in and all that good stuff. So gotta go in the office. That's all right. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the presentation here.
I think I held it down as best I could while you're gone.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
The king of winging it.
That's great. Hope I wasn't too long. It was like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna kind of go into like kind of what's going on with the stock market, equities, all that good stuff, but just with the sake of time and all that, it's been crazy out there. I think if you're watching, geopolitical stuff, which is uncertain, there's like videos saying like this is good for stocks, which uncertainty is never good for stocks, regardless if it's like a war or if it's a pandemic or whatever the Fed's going to do. The market likes to be safe, and with the 10-year almost hitting 5%, which is hitting mortgage rates, which is causing like kind of a cascade of the Dow being down 300 points today on fears that growth is going to be at a pause. We don't know if different countries are going to enter this conflict. A lot of stuff's going on. And I think it was just a perfect culmination of fear. Now, you can either sell everything, or you can kind of look back at your portfolio and just kind of see where either you have opportunities or you're positioned well. At this point, I would say look at your positions versus so much being on attack mode, that Warren Buffett, like when, buy when fear is going on. What's Manio is adding some good comedy to the show today.
Don't think I'm not going to steal that either. I will use that one in the future. I promise you. Thanks for chiming in, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Menu. I'll see you soon. Yeah, so yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that, and yeah, I think it's still a little uncertain what's going on. I think you have to have a lot of just things going. You just have to be kind of cognizant of what's going on. But if you have these stocks, I think you're in okay kind of commentary or territory. I was gonna put like Costco and maybe like even Apple in this segment, but I talk about them so much that I wanted to kind of branch out of those stocks. So without further ado,
But you would include those, is what I'm hearing. You would. They
I'd
would probably
probably
make the list.
it probably yeah. People, stuff going. They're just they pay dividend, got a lot of cash, and they have. I think what's mostly important in this kind of consumer cycle is they have a lot of um, they have a lot of loyal customers, and it's the demand thing. So, uh, but anyway, topics we're kind of covering right now is safe stocks in today's times. West Coast real estate, which you always do. West to East Coast real estate. Tip of the day, and then Brad's the more you know. I'm not sure if it's five new designs, but it's something, something fun.
Five things I love. So
All right,
yeah.
the Fat Five. So I've talked about MasterCard before, but I haven't really talked about MasterCard's, kind of homie, I guess you'd call it. But you'll kind of see a commonality between these stocks here. So let's start with Visa. If you have Visa, I would not sell it here. I just wouldn't. It was down pretty big today. 1.5%. I'm being very sarcastic there, but it pays a pretty good dividend for a $237 stock that's growing. I like, it's not a huge dividend, but it's still, paying a dividend, which is good. Over the past year, it's been, 207 was the low part. Your high was around 247. It's dipped down to around 237. It's still up 14.5% year to date. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty good return if you've held it throughout the year. It's kind of ebb and flows, right, with the market here, all that. But with the 10-year being as high as it is, and with bond rates being as high as it is, that's a pretty good return on your investment at 14.5%. Sorry, not 14.5%, but 14.5%. Yeah, Brad. So do you fancy yourself a Visa or MasterCard person?
I think the card that I have is Visa. So yeah, I've had it for a long time. So that's I say the card I have, but the my credit card and of course my debit card is Visa. It's just a name that when you see the logo, I feel comfort, like it's a name you know. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
it makes perfect sense, and that's kind of like a common. Again, that's kind of a common thing with the stocks I'm choosing today. Yeah, and it's a pretty safe stock. People, if the world goes to hell, I mean, I think Visa's still going to be okay.
And it's cheaper than MasterCard.
It's
I
a
see
little bit
MasterCard in
cheaper.
that.
It's a little bit cheaper as far as price to earnings ratio. I would say MasterCard is probably their expectations for MasterCard to be growing faster than Visa. But as far as price to the earnings power, you're going to get more out of Visa than you are going to get out of MasterCard. MasterCard's a little bit more volatile up and down. So, and it's a Dow component as well. And then back to our presentation. Toyota, it's the biggest car company in the world. It's not going to be really involved in any of like the geopolitical stuff, in my opinion. It's just a consistent grower. So let's take a look at it real quick. Let's see here. Toyota Motor stock dividend. It's down $2 today. Another, it's down 1.26%. Versus like a Tesla, which is down 4.78% today. It's again, it's not gonna triple your stock portfolio, but the quarterly dividends $1.06. So you're getting paid $1.06 per share that you own every quarter. It's a pretty hefty dividend, 2.42% yield. 300 PE ratios are around 11.85%, which basically means it's a pretty fairly valued stock. It's not going to grow huge, but I think people use as investors, they like that dividend yield that Toyota pays out. Are you more of a domestic car guy or like a foreign car guy?
No, I'm a Toyota driver. I love Toyota. I
Yeah,
love. I've got
reliable.
the. I joke that my car is a soccer mom car. I've got a Toyota Highlander.
Yeah, no, that's not a. Oh, that is not
I
blasphemy.
but it's great, man. I took some people. We were going to dinner or something, and some people they were like, "God, I did not realize it was this roomy." And it's got 3 rows of seats. I mean, it
Yeah,
is like the outside. It looks a little more compact than you might think, but it's reliable. It's
yeah,
just, I bought it because I just don't like. That's not where I want. I like to spend money on things I like to spend money on,
yeah,
and but I don't buy a new car every year or do. I don't get into any of that stuff. I want to drive it until it's on its deathbed,
yeah,
and I can do that with a Toyota.
yeah. Uh, Manuel in the chat, he definitely is a truck guy, and he took us around in a Ford Lightning one time, and that was a pretty fun car to have. But when he told me what the price was that it was going for, I was like, I can't do that. And that is true. Toyotas are American made for sure. Um, what you call it? There are plants in the Midwest. I want to say East Coast. I'm not sure exactly. I just feel it's a more reliable car. I'll never buy a German car ever again.
What do you drive?
I drive an Audi, and it's the funnest car I've ever driven in my life. But Jesus, it's unreliable. I mean, I hate that car as far as like a reliability standpoint, but um, it's a fun car to drive. I'll just say that. But
You can't just take it to any shop either. I don't think.
you
Don't you?
really can't. It's funny, the Japanese cars, like auto shops, there's more. I feel like there's more. Like they kind of combine with the American and Japanese, right? But yeah, if you have a German car, you have to go to a German dealership, or you have to go to the dealership. It's just harder to get fixed.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Toyota. If you're holding this, I'd still probably hold on to it. There's all these things with the car industry. Brains in our chat, in our Discord. He's part of the finance side of it. And people are still buying cars. I'm sure the production issues are nothing compared to like say a Rivian or a Ford. I think Toyota has a better handle on their production issues, so they're going to have like that real reliability too. But as far as the stock's concerned, I mean, you're up 27% this year. It's up $37 per share. And like right here, I mean, $1.06 per quarter. That's awesome. So you're doing great there.
Yeah, shout out to Brains, James Kreider. I miss him being in the chats. He was a wealth of knowledge, man. He brought a really interesting perspective. We'll have to see if we can coax him back to hang out in
For
the
the show.
chat with us.
Yeah, no, really, really different perspective of a major asset class that everyone else buys, which is cars. And last but not least, Chevron. This is kind of my, how do you say this? Like in a world where there's so much like scariness and negativity around the gasoline stocks. I mean, these refinery stocks, they do so well, especially in times like this. So remember I said the Dow was down 300 points today? Well, look at this. Stock's up $1.33. It's the other thing too with these refiner stocks is they're really easy to gauge because I mean everyone drives. We're still not at parity with electric versus like gasoline. Gasoline is actually still used to produce electricity, so you have that as well. The dividend is pretty good in this as well. Let's see. Let me do dividend real quick. I mean, $1.51 per quarter. So $6 a year for every share you have for a stock that trades $168 a share. Let's take a look at oil today. So our old friend Trey, I mean, he's in the oil industry. I mean, who knows? Like if oil starts to trade at around $100 a barrel, that's just going to add to the stock price of Chevron. It's going to add to the demand of it, especially in, I hate to say it, but like oil is kind of almost a hedge against what's going on in the Middle East and, Israel and that conflict.
It is so hard to have this conversation without getting political.
I
It's
mean,
like so tied. It's so tied
yeah,
to everything, isn't it? That's how
yeah,
it's how dependent we are on it. It's so tough to have that conversation and it not become something political. But it's
right.
we're still try as we might, and I recycle and I do what I can to try to lessen my carbon footprint, but we are
It's hard.
very dependent on it. We're
Hmm.
very dependent on, um, driving and flying and all that stuff. I mean, everything you think about all the stuff that requires petroleum, man,
It's a
it,
lot.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And especially during war times, I mean, there's people saying like, oh, there might be like $150 a barrel. And like, no, I mean, unless it's a Goldman Sachs oil trader, like they have no idea. But you take it by like slices, right? If oil goes to $95 a share, Chevron's still probably going to be okay because it's either going to be rising demand from consumers, or this conflict in the Middle East is going to get worse. And it doesn't matter with interest rates; people are still going to buy the same amount of gas they are like a week ago. They may not go to like Palm Springs, from Seattle, but I mean, last time I was on a plane, like it was packed. I mean, albeit that was like 2 months ago, but the Christmas season's coming upon us. Um,
Thanksgiving, yeah, there's a lot of
all that
travel
stuff,
opportunity coming up.
a
Yeah.
lot of travel. It's just, and oh, and you know, I don't know how the weather's going to be in the Northeast, but if it gets cold, I mean, that's another thing to look at. That's an easy kind of thing to like keep aware of too, if you're trading in these type of stocks too. So, yeah, man. Have you ever thought of that? Like while you're at the pump, like, gosh, I'm paying 4.50 or $4 a gallon. I should buy some stock in this stupid refinery company. You ever thought of that before?
No, no, I haven't. But since we've been doing this, you've changed the way I think a lot about this stuff. So it's and you've certainly gotten my attention to start tracking this stuff a lot more.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to track, regardless of
Sure.
I may not always know what I'm reading, but it's kind of
Yeah.
fun to pick a few and track them and just kind of follow those, like economics class in high school all over again.
Yeah.
Like we had to pick like several stocks and follow them
Sure.
for the class. So
Um, and before we go on to the next deal, if you guys don't know what a dividend is necessarily, so a dividend is basically it's like an interest payment when you're like buying a CD or something. So it's you get a certain amount in dollars that goes into your money market account that you have tied towards your stock portfolio, and it's per quarter. And so they take a slice of the stock price and they pay that out to investors. It's kind of like I would say like a thank you, but more so to entice them not to sell the stock. And it's one of those things that people look at if they want, if like dividends, one of those things that people, when you get closer to retirement, you want to have a lot of stocks that pay dividends because it's another way to earn passive income, quote unquote. And you can either reinvest it into the stock or you can just keep it, in your money market account and then buy stock later down the road. Just in case, I don't know if anyone knew what what a dividend is. So just kind of for you guys.
you've mentioned in the past that you were not a fan of like natural resource slash utility type stuff. Is Chevron far enough removed from that for you to be comfortable doing it, or not?
In these times, I think you should. I mean, like, unless there's a drastic change in the way we drive, I think oil is just going to be around. It's just way too tied into like the world economies that it's always going to be a performer. The supply and demand of it is just, whether it be artificial or whatever, it's still being consumed. I don't personally have any of these stocks in my portfolio. just kind of a disclaimer there. They're just stocks that if you do have them, I have in my mutual funds. But to answer your question, I'm just not a huge fan of them at this time in my portfolio kind of like analysis or holdings, because I like to take a little more risk. But if you're not and you're worried about all the stuff going on, they're great stocks to have just because of this current state of the world and all that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just remembered you saying that at one point, that you weren't really a fan of like that. I don't know. I don't remember if it's natural resources or whatever, but I was reminded of it when the Chevron thing came up, and I was just curious if you had changed your stance, or if but they all three look great. I mean, that's, those are solid companies that you get the feel goods when you see the logo. They're established companies.
Recognizable, established. I think they also have a really loyal customer base too. That's another thing that you want to look out for when you're investing in times like these too, right? So I went east of the mountains a little bit, not near the water. So this is I kind of got inspiration from like South Carolina type homes. So went up to a lower price point, and this is a pretty huge house in Spokane. This is northeast of Seattle. The winters are pretty rough here. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Gonzaga, but Spokane is where Gonzaga is located. 5-bedroom, 3-bath house. This is completely remodeled. I thought this was a really good deal for this big of a house, even if it's in Spokane and at these rates. I may offer like 4.25 for it, but 435 isn't a bad deal either. But yeah, it was just kind of obviously this is an older picture. Actually, it might be like a week ago. We've had like it's 70 degrees here in Seattle, which is like unheard of in October 18th. But yeah, man, I saw it was kind of a cool house.
What is it normally this time of year?
Oh, like 50s. It's way too hot.
You sweat when it's the 70s.
So I know it's kind of embarrassing. It's windy, so it's a little bit cooler. But yeah, man, I'm sweating.
It's been cool here, man. It has been, it's been in the probably mid to low 60s getting up in the morning. That's pretty cool for us.
Oh, that's way too hot for us here, which is embarrassing. But
that's you walk outside and you have just a little nip in the air. It's football weather.
Yeah, football weather for sure.
That's a beautiful house, man. That is,
it's not bad.
It looks southern. It really looks like you could plop it down right here, and it would fit in. It has like a craftsman style feel to it.
Yeah.
It's got that traditional front porch that looks very southern. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of a fun one to find, and yeah, you gave me a little bit of inspiration there, and I wanted to find like a kind of lower price point too, and somewhere different. Seattle's okay, but want to branch out a little bit too.
Sure. Well, I decided to take this opportunity. This is actually my listing, so cool. This is one that I've got. It's $415,000. It's in Columbia, kind of more northeast a little bit. 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, 3,556 square feet. It's built in 2009. It's a brick with a 2-car garage, hardwood floors and tile throughout. And did I mention 6 bedrooms? That's been a little bit of a hindrance because it's so much house that there's some people kind of on the hook. They're blending 2 families, so they need 6 bedrooms. But that's kind of what my demographic is people who need that. The average person that's way too much room for them. But
yeah,
in the one of the main like living room, there's a living room in the back that has a fireplace. There's what would be a formal living room in the front. Well, he hung a big light from the top and had a pool table in that room. And then like recessed the TV like flush into the wall and had all the wires. So it was like, I said, man, you had your little man cave going on in here. It was really cool. But yeah, $415,000, and massive house, but it's really pretty. It's really nice.
I wanted to. This is something I was just kind of curious with. Um, you said there's like new tile. I mentioned. Oh, what's up, my guy? Soupy's in the house. Um, do people prefer like a clean slate, or do they prefer like I want this move-in ready in today's market with the way everything is?
I think you can get by. Come on, brother. I'm moving to SC so I can afford. Yeah, come on, man. It's ridiculous. I mean, it really is. See, this would be a great house for like a multi-generational, you know,
Yeah,
like have but I think other than cosmetic, people pretty much want it move-in ready. Like you can have
they
a
do.
couple of
Okay.
cosmetic things, but um and maybe even like a room or two that might need to be painted or something, but
Yeah,
I can a lot of that falls on the agent. I like to say, you know, a good agent can get past can get past some things. Like if you've got a stain on the ceiling where the oh shoot, the pipe burst in the bathroom, we got to shut it off, and by the time you do, the ceiling in the kitchen has a little discoloration to it. Um, you know, I'm the type of agent who will, if I look on the properties, clearly it's not still, still leaking. And hey, we're going to get a home inspection anyway. We'll pay close attention to that and make sure there's no active leak, but it looks like it was fixed. It's not damp now. Some of that stuff a good agent can can kind of get past that. Um, I would say for the most part, people do want move in ready.
okay.
Have it cleaned real good. You
Yeah,
can paint once you move in, but like
sure.
major stuff, it's a lot tougher because they got to put their stuff somewhere,
Yeah,
and so they want to be able to like, hey, let's close. A lot of people close and they go straight to the house and start. We got to
moving
meet the
stuff in.
moving truck over there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say in general that's the what people are looking for.
Cool. I'm just curious if that changed a little bit, but it's good to know.
I think in all this time, people have gotten a lot more savvy. Like they're a little more picky, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of information at people's fingertips now.
I
With
know. Yeah,
hey, we can just look on Zillow or Redfin or whatever to kind of get an idea of what we want to list our house for or what's selling in our area. So they're a little more they're a lot more educated now than they were, 15, 20 years ago.
sure. So credit tip of the day, and this was something that I always run into with clients all the time. So if you have an American Express charge card, if you don't, I guess this doesn't work. But this is just something if you're thinking about doing it. So a charge card, it's the intention is it's supposed to be paid off every month. You don't necessarily have to do that. They'll charge you a big interest rate, whatever, but it's supposed to be paid off every month. Well, let's say you apply for a mortgage. This is more specifically for a mortgage or maybe like a car. Um, it will look like your monthly payment is the balance of that card from when
Ooh,
the American Express was applied for. So, for example, let's just say you put all of your expenses on your American Express card, and let's say it's like $2,500 a month. Well, when we're as a mortgage broker, when we're calculating debt to income, we see that on our credit report as a $2,500 payment per month. So it kills your DTI. The way to alleviate that is one, make sure there's zero balance and don't use it for a while, until you find that home. Or, and this is just more of a hassle, but you may have to provide some more documentation, like an extra mortgage or extra bank statement or whatever. It's kind of a hassle. It's not a big deal, but just kind of just be aware of that. Like if you run into like a mortgage broker who maybe isn't really versed in the whole process, that they're going to ask you, oh, what's this American Express credit line for? Is it a charge card? Okay, we're going to need some documentation to prove that it's either a zero balance or what the actual limit is. Just kind of a hassle sometimes, and it can affect your credit it can affect your credit score as well a little bit. So just keep that in mind for just future reference for people. And I thought that was something that you can't really find out unless you actually do apply for a mortgage. but you can find that out over here. So anyway,
I did not know that. That's
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
That's a little bit scary.
a little bit scary. It's just more of like a, and then you just have to provide stuff, and it's just whatever. I want to real quick. I'm really bad at doing this, but we're about 45 minutes into the show. I want to thank everyone for coming through and having a little bit of faith in us. We've been kind of low, we lay low for a little bit. If you could like, subscribe, tell all your friends. We're trying to do more just shorts on the channel to be more informative about what's going on. We really appreciate it. It's a fun show for us to do, and I like Brad really do enjoy the interaction as well. So appreciate everyone's support today.
Yeah, and if you're watching, we seem to have a fair amount of people who hey, thanks Robert, appreciate it, man. Thanks for swinging by. We seem to have a fair amount of people who watch on the rewind too. And I mentioned while you were on your call, hey, leave us a comment. We can, we'll go back and double check and see. We'll get a notification when you leave a comment, so we can go back and check. If you have questions, leave them there, and we'll try and answer them on the next show. So there's if you can't catch us live, do that. We'd love to answer any questions you got.
Most definitely. All right, enough from me. On to Brad.
All right, so we had some news, some news I wanted to share. So this is always like I wanted to share this. This one was enough information that I had to use two of my breaking news and real estate slides. But the headline was Fed members breaking rank on rate hikes. So earlier this month, Fed Governor Michelle Bowman expressed concern about high inflation, stating that she expects the Fed may need to raise rates further and hold them at a restrictive level for some time. However, other Fed members have signaled that they may be ready to end hikes for the Fed funds rate, citing the risks of hiking too much. Fed Governor Christopher Waller said the financial markets are tightening up and they're going to do some of the work for us. He added, "We're finally getting very good inflation data. If this continues, we're pretty much back to our target." So, can you hit the next slide? There's one more of these important people chimed in. So, Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic further stated, "I actually don't think we need to increase rates anymore." As he noted that rates were clearly restrictive and slowing the economy. San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly has also noted the need for further hikes is diminished if financial conditions remain tight. Dallas Fed President Lori Logan and Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker have made similar comments as well. So what's the bottom line? We are clearly seeing some dissent among Fed members, which will be crucial to follow ahead of their next rate decision on November 1st. What are your thoughts about that?
I think they're going to raise again. And they're going to raise another 25 basis points. I mean, and this is the reason. Inflation numbers are still coming in higher than expected. And the market, the stock market, is just kind of whatever, and the market just keeps going up. Now it's specific to the moves are specific to a very small amount of companies. It's not a broader market like rally, but I would feel more comfortable if the S&P was at like 4,100, because, and I mean for sure, with the real estate season kind of slowing down with the winter, it's winter time, all seasonality and all that. But I don't know. I think the main reason that the Fed's raising rates is to slow down inflation, and it's not slowing down, I think, fast enough. I think almost, this sounds really dumb. I think they should have raised it 50 basis points last quarter and just kind of had it, had one more last kind of good run. Now, I think if they don't raise rates 25 basis points, they're not going to change rates for like a year. That's kind of my assumption. I feel like rates are going to stay this while yeah. Anyway, that's what I think. What do you think?
It feels like they're going to, but I just thought it was interesting that it's not maybe not a consensus
Mhm.
that some people are thinking like, hey, maybe what we've implemented is going to, curb things, but it's still strong. I mean, things are still, people are just kind of rolling with it,
Yeah.
you know.
This is, I hope I don't get too political about this next comment I'm about to make, but uh, I always look at employment numbers as kind of the biggest kind of barometer for how the economy is doing, right? Obviously. And this past month, I mean, jobs numbers were 350,000 when the estimate was like 220. And this is the political part, I guess. The reason they're saying is that a majority of the jobs that were filled by immigrants willing to take basically the normal wage versus greedy Americans that won't work for less than 30 bucks an hour. That's totally fine. It's something to kind of like, I think, be aware of, that there are jobs out there still that, for like, I guess, the quote unquote unprofessional, um, it's still available to them. I think the other thing we need to look forward to is like, what's the November jobs numbers going to look like? If it ticks down, then maybe the Fed has done their job, especially going into the holiday season. But I mean, people are still willing to work, and there's people that are willing to take a not so bad $18 to $20 job, doing retail, which I'm shocked about, but it makes sense with the immigration kind of like deal. I don't know exactly what Jim Cramer was referring to, whether it was like, quote unquote, like legal immigrants or like sanctuary cities, what have you, but those jobs are getting filled. And that, what else that tells me is that like people are still buying, which is why inflation was up 0.7% the past week, or wholesale inflation, whatever number it was. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what inflation number it was, but it's still going up. I know there's certain sectors like recruiting, for example, that they're getting laid off like crazy. I thought there was a funny comment. LinkedIn, the job site that you're supposed to go to find a job, laid off 60 people like a week ago. I thought it
Wow.
was kind of funny. Not funny for those people, but like the irony of it, right?
Irony, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I think.
All right, so I mentioned earlier about seasonality, and so this is just a bit of an explanation for folks out there. So, understanding seasonal housing and appreciation trends. Zillow reported that home values declined by 0.1% in September, the first monthly decrease since February, though prices are still 2.1% higher than in September of last year. In
Hmm.
addition, home values are still on pace to increase 6% this year, according to Zillow's index. So, and these two of these articles I found, good friend of mine, Michelle Rogers, who works at Assurance Financial. She's a mortgage lender here. Good friend of mine. She sent this out, and I was just really intrigued by it. So thank you,
Mhm.
Michelle. So what's the bottom line? The small price decline in September follows significant increases seen throughout the spring and summer months. Fall usually brings less competition in the housing market because families with school-age children like to be settled ahead of a new school year. This season is typically the softest for home price appreciation. So just so people know, we do see, kind of September to February, March, January or February, somewhere in that range. It's a little soft, and then, you know, stuff starts blooming and people go crazy you know, for houses and stuff. So
Right. Even in a difficult buying landscape like we have today. So, yeah.
hopefully, or we might be looking for those jobs too, Ferg.
we might be in line too.
Something
Yeah, yeah.
secondary.
Who knows?
And I think I have one more news related. All right.
Yep.
So this is just a graphic showing existing home sales for August. So 4.04 million sales. And this is you've got month over month, it's down 0.7%, and then year over year it's down 15.3%. So the inventory, and this is August numbers. So within, usually, I think this came out the end of September. So about the end of October, we'll get to see September's numbers, and we can kind of compare these a little bit. But inventory, 3.3 months supply. This time last year, it was a 3.2 month supply. So it's kind of steady, actually. And then medium sell price, 407,000. Year over year, it's 3.9% higher. So we've mentioned before, 3.3 month supply is about half of an average market. So inventory has gone up year over year. Yeah, it is. Yeah, which is another reason why you need to move to South Carolina, Soupy. That's it's nowhere. It's not near that. But 3.3 month supply is about half of what we need for an average healthy market, which is about a 6 month supply. So yeah, that's our numbers for now. But I'll bring the new one up. Like I said, it should be another week or so. We'll get the new numbers. Soupy, where do you live now?
I think he's in Arizona.
Okay.
Which
Phoenix,
you were
right.
Okay, Phoenix, yeah. So that's where a lot of people where I'm in Seattle are moving to Arizona for the warm weather and the cheaper housing. And I mean that's been like that kind of for years, but like I just saw migration like big time from here down there. I actually, a few of my friends about my age, they moved down there for that reason. Which, it's tough, man. I feel y'all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So my 5 favorite things, and you see the little this has a little bit of a fall theme to it, which is why we've used the fall leaves there.
All right.
So number 5, and this is just something basic that I enjoy seeing. It kind of ushers in the season, but it's just fall decorations around the door, like just stuff around your door. It's inexpensive curb appeal. It's easy to do. But I've actually on my door, I've got a pumpkin and I've got some mums, and that's 2 things you can go pick up at the store and set out. It just looks nice. It just feels, the air's a little cooler, and these decorations just kind of ushers in that fall season. So that's something I really like to see. That's super easy to do.
My wife is watching. I'm asking if she's seeing this, and she's like, I asked her to comment, but
is she a fan or no?
I'm sure she loves this section of your podcast.
So with it being fall, for us it means more time. Not necessarily more time outside, but it's more maybe comfortable time.
Yep, there she
there
is.
You go. All right, well, we know what you're doing Saturday. Going to Lowe's or Home Depot and grabbing some mums.
Yep.
They just look nice though, man. It just looks, it just looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such an easy. I mean, they literally are already done for you. It's already in a little, in a little container and everything. So
yeah, it's awesome.
I love outdoor string lights.
I do too. Yeah.
When it's nice out and it's gotten cooler and it's just not so hot like it is here. I kind of like what they did where they've run the string lights from the house to the back of the property. And you can actually put up, all right, we've got 2 thumbs up so far for 1 thumb up for 5 and 1 thumb up for 4.
Loves outdoor lights, like obsessed. Our neighbor next door, he has them, and it's really cool. It's very inviting too. I feel like it brings kind of like it brings like a kind of like, oh, there's something going on over there.
Yeah.
Even when there's no one in the backyard, but like they rent. However, their house is like a way better setup than what we have, So I like the outdoor lights.
There's a really cool way to like they've done here where it's run from the house straight back to the property. So if you put like a tall post in the back of your property, a lot of people will use that as like the focal point and run several strands from that. So it almost kind of looks like a spider web, but it branches out, and that's kind of your your end point. And I think that looks really nice. It almost creates like a canopy over the yard. So you kind of, it almost feels like you're indoors maybe a little bit, but you're outside. You know, it's got that comfort of you know, just having that the cascading lights over you. So I right before this, I actually took the photo from Amazon. You can get 100-foot string of LED lights for $40.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, and I've got those. I've got it's pretty much the same strand that they're showing here. I've got those run in my. You've seen me while we've chatted on video. We've done this while I was outside on my balcony, and I've got a strand running up like around the top of the balcony inside, and I've run that into a dimmer switch. And that dimmer switch, like the plug for the lights just go into that, and that dimmer switch just plugs into the outlet, and you can dim. And so it's kind of nice to have that control. Some of them are on remote control, and you can change the color, or they can kind of glow. There's a lot of stuff you can do with those LED ones. So, but it's a great cheap way to like really create a nice ambiance in your backyard. As you're out there spending time, we'll get progressively more expensive in my 5 favorite things as we go through. But yeah, this is one I really like a lot.
Oh, this is great.
All right, so the good old fire pit.
Yep.
You know, and I love this one that they've shown here because they've actually, if you look to the right of the fire pit, they've got the stone seating that kind of mimics that the circular shape of the fire pit. So you've got built-in seating around it. But another one that I really like that's a great DIY project that's actually pretty cheap is when you use this retaining wall block that I've got in the photo, the small photo next to there. You actually just stagger, and you know, you flatten your ground out and put some pea gravel or some gravel in the bottom and just kind of build up around it. And you can, you know, it's a pretty easy project to do yourself. And the retaining wall blocks are about $2.38 a block at Home Depot. So, but it's just a great way, you know, and you set a couple of chairs out there and you maybe roast some marshmallows and get a good, you know, craft beer or a nice bourbon, and there's a little nip in the air. Just sit out and listen to music and have a good time, man. It's just all about creating those opportunities for like hanging out with family and friends and stuff.
Yeah, we actually it's hard to explain, but the main area of our backyard is all concrete, and there's like a basketball hoop up there, and then there's like a level above, and it's like all where like the vegetation is at the backyard, but it doesn't really get that much usage. And so my wife and I were talking about like ways we could improve kind of the livability of the backyard because it's such a big backyard. And we were talking about actually wanting to build a fire pit, take out this one big bush and then just basically do like a fire pit around there. So I'm right there with you with this project. That's great.
What is it? Something you would try to do yourself? Maybe. Are you done with DIY projects after the bathroom?
No, we got some more DIY projects we're gonna try and do. I'm doing simple stuff like painting the door frames and replacing the doorknobs, stuff like that for now. But we want to, like, there's so much other stuff that we want to do internally, and it makes sense, right? Because it's colder over here. But I do want a fire pit for sure. So
there, I have my cousin he's got a really nice. It kind of looks like that one, where they kind of like he had a slope backyard, so they dug into the backyard straight down and did retaining wall, and then a pavers for the fire pit. Built the fire pit, and they ran the gas line from his house to the fire pit. Huh. So you don't have to you can put wood in the top, but you could run the fire pit without even, you know, you just turn it on. It's got a gas line.
That's pretty cool. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's very nice. Cool. Very nice. And then they've got like decorative, it's almost like lava rock kind of glass. I don't know. It's like a glass that doesn't melt. It's like these glass beads in the top. So it's just got a really nice look, but it's very well done.
I like that.
This is another thing that I really like when I go into a house and I see a pot filler. Are you familiar with
I've
these?
never seen that before. That's amazing.
It's really cool. So I think it's like really classic. It's super convenient, and it just looks really classy. Like, oh wow, they're very well to do. They've got a pot filler, but it's just you run these above the stove and tell her just to start watching this segment the whole way through.
I just texted her. She's at happy hour having a good old time, and
Oh boy.
I said, "You see this pot filler?" And she's
Tell her to watch the replay.
yeah. I
Watch
told
the
all her
rewind.
I told all her coworkers to tune in and get a
Um,
mortgage. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
but I love this idea, but it's so convenient if you want to fix pasta or you're fixing soup or whatever. Just set it on the stove
It's
and
awesome.
pull this. It's retractable. So this one you can see has got several hinges where you can put it flush up against the wall, but
Mhm.
pull it out when you need to so it'll reach the eyes, and you just fill it up directly from there. So if you're doing spaghetti or whatever, just fill it up right at the stove. And I was curious because I want to try to share um, like cost associated with this. And at Home Depot again, they're going to start throwing us some money as much as we mentioned them, but at Home Depot again, $85 for the nickel finish pot filler. So basically at that point all you have to do is run your plumbing from the sink to there. And but yeah, I just think it's a really cool, like classy looking feature to have in a house, and it just looks so. I think it makes the house feel more expensive, maybe like that's not
Oh
something
yeah,
everybody has.
yeah. I
So, but I love them.
yeah. I am. If I watch it, I've never seen this at a house before. Like until you show me the slide. So this is like this is new to me.
Did
Um,
you look at the slides before now?
no, never do.
I
No,
don't look
never
at
do
you.
it.
Yeah, I
Never
don't
do
either.
it. But if I walked into a house and I saw that, I would be immediately drawn to it because, like, let's be honest, right? Like a new home, you kind of have this assumption of like, okay, it's gonna have this, and like, it's not that it's bad, but like seeing something like that that's so unique, and I assume that the amount it costs to do that may be a little pricey. However, the return on investment on that is like as far as like eyes are concerned, it's a talking piece, and everyone's gonna want to do that because I want to
Yeah,
do that now. So yeah,
I love it. I just think it's the coolest thing.
it's really
And like,
awesome.
who thought of that? That's like, who thought of that?
And they never cook at home. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even have to cook. It's like, hey, look at this cool like, because and I'm just thinking the utility of it as well as like because I cook a lot of soups and just like boil stuff, till like the bone falls off. But you have to get like something and like you gotta dump it in and like get another one and like keep dumping. That's so convenient for like the type of cooking that I like to do. So that's awesome, man. I like that.
Could you retrofit fit your kitchen for it?
So the stove right now is like on an island. So we would have to move it to the old school version of it of the way it was before. Um, we have a wet bar,
Oh,
which kind of reminds me of this, but
yeah,
it's for the bar. It's not so much for like we don't ever use it. But I feel like I'd get so much use out of this. Like I'd be so used to it. And then if it like if it like broke down for whatever reason, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to go the old school way of filling my pot. And
carry it all the way from the sink to
I
the
know.
stove.
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, if you had one of those, it would look like you lit that gas stove with $100 bills. I mean, that looks like something the very wealthy would have
It
because you
really
just don't.
does.
Yeah, you
It
just
really
don't see
does.
it.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool.
yeah, Soupies. I wonder. Yeah, is your brother and sister in law are they millionaires by chance? And they
Yeah.
have because it's very fancy. But that's cool. That's cool that somebody else has seen that. I've just seen it a couple of times, but I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's the coolest thing. It's
Yeah, I
just that
love
wow
it.
factor.
Oh, yeah, it just pops, definitely.
All right, and last but not least, the outdoor kitchen.
Oh,
Look at
man.
this setup, man. This is amazing. They've got the little bay for the wood. They've got the fireplace up there, and then all of the grill and everything is just like, there you go. Hey, well, somebody's
That's
getting.
cool.
Is that in Arizona also? Are they in Arizona?
Yeah, I wonder.
Um, the but the so the reason I chose this picture is because I think you can do something similar to give it the same feel without having stuff actually built in. The stone looks great. I mean, that just looks like a place where, hey, I'm going to invite like 3 or 4 couples over and we're going to cook outside and hang out and drink wine and, just talk and have a good time. I mean, it's just a great place to hang out. So imagine though, because I don't like this because it's cheap. That was my first bullet point. That's not the reason I didn't choose this because it's a cheap favorite thing, but there are less expensive options. So if you install a pergola and you could run lights, I've seen lights run on those that look really nice. And then just arrange, you got a gas grill, you might have they make outdoor pizza ovens now that are really
Yeah.
cool. And just like have a nice setup where maybe it's not completely built in, or a griddle. Those griddles are really cool. And I've seen people, we think griddle and we think breakfast, but you could do stir fry. You could do a lot of things out there, just like something that you can just mass cook while you're hanging out with family and friends and just having a great time. There's a little nip in the air and you got the fire going. It's a cheaper alternative to doing this like really nice, like you thought the pot filler was a wow factor. I mean, you walk outside and see a kitchen like this, that's like, holy cow, that's amazing.
Yeah. That I hate like cooking like steak, for example, on the charcoal grill we have, and then walking upstairs and then like, oh shoot, it's not rare enough, or it's too, or whatever, and then I have to walk back down. It's all this up and down, back and forth. I've always wanted an outdoor kitchen. It's like you said, it's not cheap, right? But I assume in South Carolina you do get a lot of usage out of it just because of the weather.
Sure.
You could get usage, I think, out of here too, even with it raining. I think it's still, all these are great ideas, for wherever you live. I think it's awesome.
Well, you could have the pergola and they make this like this corrugated material. If the pergola were slightly raised on one end,
Mhm.
you could they have this clear, like corrugated, it's like this, looks like this wavy material that comes in big sheets.
Mm.
And if you mount that to the top, you still have the view, so it doesn't obstruct the view of having that pergola. But
Mhm.
it could be raining and you could hang out there and
Right.
still have that same feel.
Sure.
You could mount a TV above the fireplace and watch your favorite YouTube show or whatever. Watch a game. I just love this, man. It's just such a nice configuration there.
Yeah, that's cool. The sink too. I like this the sink.
At that. So the quote kind of reflects that. So deeper connection. So all this stuff was about like creating these environments where you can hang out with family and friends and just spending time with loved ones, especially as we gear up for the holidays with Thanksgiving and Christmas rolling around. But
Yeah.
everyone craves deeper connection in their life. Be the one that creates the space to let it happen. So I just thought that was kind of a cool. Yeah, and it can be something as simple as like running the lights in the backyard and just having a cool little setup with a fire pit or something. But creating those spaces where we can create memories with people we love.
Good stuff, man. I really enjoyed the first two. As far as like price is concerned, everything else is like, I mean, they were all awesome suggestions. But the first two I think are like, oh, that's nice. Like you could do it on the cheap and elevate, right, your home or whatever. And I think that's something that a lot of people are just trying to do. Just do like little things like, like uh, repairing a door, or adding new doorknobs, or like taking out stuff. You can do addition by subtraction as well, right? So that's what we're doing right now, is just kind of subtracting things. Or there's also like DIY, like taking this cabinet and repainting it or refinishing it, all that type of stuff. So but But yeah, I think there's still, you can still, you know, you can do things that look expensive or look kind of fancy, but you know, it's still, it's a pretty affordable thing to do and easy. I guess that's the biggest thing, right? For people that are doing that type of thing, is how easy is it to do this stuff. So
Yeah, the first two were definitely easy to do, and yeah, you get that, you know, when you, it's that sense of accomplishment of
mhm.
like, I walk up to my door because um my mom brought the mums for me, and she put them on my doorstep and was like, "Hey, would you like this or not?" I said, "No, I'd appreciate that. You know, I appreciate the I don't usually like decorate a lot, so
Mhm.
I do appreciate that. The only I love fall weather. The only thing I don't like about fall is it getting dark earlier. That's the only thing. Time will the time will be changing in a couple of weeks, so
Yeah,
um, it'll be
crazy.
getting dark at like 5 p.m. here.
Yeah, it starts to get dark around like 6:30, which
Yeah.
is still weird to people that don't live here. I remember one time I was on a podcast and Ralph was on there. He was like, "Dude, is it still light up there?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's so weird." I was like, Should go to Alaska. It's even weirder. You know, they have like midnight golf or stuff like that." So
Wow.
um,
Well, that
anyway,
was fun, man. I enjoyed that. Good to be back.
yeah, yeah, it's good to be back. You know, I think this today's show is pretty important to kind of settle people's nerves. I was feeling that from like just people in general. Like I got a bunch of text messages. There's a lot of like negativity out there, and I mean, I'm not the one to be like, no, it's not negative. Nothing's bad. I mean, there's people that are suffering out there, whether it be here domestically or in other parts of the world, and it's having an effect. I mean, we are a global economy, right? And it's another thing to kind of keep into account is that we are a global economy, and so there are powers that be that don't want to ruin it. Um, just kind of keep that in mind, and I think we'll be okay. And we'll just peruse this financial landscape as we go in the next couple months, and hope for the best for everybody. But you know, you got to tighten up a little bit. I think just maybe not go out to Jack in the Box too often, and maybe make some salads at home, and all that good stuff. And
Yeah, especially with Christmas, the holidays coming up, and if you give gifts for for Christmas or whatnot, um, that's it'll be interesting to see how the inflation and all these things that we've been talking about affects people's shopping habits during the holidays.
oh yeah, I think I saw the other day that 401k withdrawals were at an all-time high
Oh
as
wow.
well. Um, which I don't honestly have a bad, like, that's kind of what it's for, right? Take a loan against your 401k if you have to, because we can do that another show.
That
But
might be worth, yeah.
yeah,
Touch
we could
on
look
it,
into
but
that
that
next
might be
week.
a good
Yeah.
thing to break out.
The problem is the people I talk to about 401k withdrawals are like, I don't have 401k. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, it's fine. That doesn't really help you then. But anyway. All right. Well, I just want to say thanks for everyone for tuning in. We had 9 live at one point, so I appreciate everyone's love and support. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you next week.